Ernest wasn't trying to spy. He wasn't trying to catch his wife in wrongdoing. He was standing in the hallway of his own home, frozen in the dim glow of the night light, his chest tightening in a way he didn't fully understand. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, and every small sound felt amplified. The faint tick of the wall clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft creak of a floorboard somewhere down the hall. He could hear her voice from the living room, low and controlled, deliberate in a way that immediately set his instincts on edge. What she was saying didn't sound like concern. It sounded like relief. Relief that he would never notice. Relief that he was, in her eyes, powerless. And in that moment, Ernest realized that the lie he had told that morning about losing his job wasn't just a small fib. It might have saved his life. Before we go deeper, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're new here, click the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. What Ernest overheard that night would force him to question everything he believed about love, loyalty, and survival. The woman he had shared years of laughter, quiet mornings, and ordinary life with had a side of herself he never knew existed, and it was about to change everything. Ernest and his wife had been married long enough that silence didn't frighten them. It was familiar, comfortable, the kind of quiet that only comes with decades of shared routines. Mornings began with the smell of coffee brewing at exactly the same time each day. The faint hiss of the toaster as it browned her toast to perfection, the soft radio playing in the background. She liked her toast lightly burned. He liked his eggs soft, almost runny. These small rituals had built a fortress of normalcy around them, one that felt unshakable. Their life wasn't built on excitement or wealth. It was built on reliability, on showing up for each other. For years, Ernest had taken that stability for granted. Arguments over bills, disagreements about errands, tense family visits, they never left a permanent mark. He trusted her implicitly. She trusted him. They believed they were doing everything right. Friends often said, "You two are solid." And he nodded because he wanted to believe it too. But subtle changes began to appear. Pauses in conversation that didn't feel natural. Shadows of hesitation in her smiles, a careful guarding of her phone. Conversations that were once long and casual grew short, precise. Questions about money that once showed concern now felt calculated. "Do we still have that savings account?" she asked one evening. "How long would insurance cover us if something happened?" These were not questions of worry. They were questions of preparation. Ernest told himself it was stress, the pressures of daily life. But he didn't notice that something else, deliberate and unseen, was beginning to settle between them. Not a fight, not a misunderstanding, but a quiet fracture he couldn't yet name. At the time, he believed the stress and distance were pulling them apart. He didn't realize that decisions had already been made without his knowledge. Decisions that would change the course of his life forever. Rumors of layoffs had been circulating at Ernest's workplace for weeks. Names whispered in break rooms, departments shrinking, futures suddenly uncertain. But it wasn't the possibility of losing a paycheck that kept Ernest awake at night. It was the thought of losing her. He needed to know where their marriage truly stood. If their bond could withstand pressure, if it could survive fear, if it could survive the truth he didn't yet know. That morning, sitting at the kitchen table, Ernest made a choice. He looked at her, steadying his voice, and said, "I got fired today." He expected shock, concern, maybe even anger, but the reaction was nothing like he imagined. There was a pause, just long enough to make his stomach twist. She stood, hugged him, but it felt careful, practiced. She whispered, "We'll be okay." Yet the words lacked warmth, as if she were repeating something rehearsed. Then came the question that froze him. Did they give you anything? Not a question about his feelings, not about what he needed. Just that. It wasn't what she said that unsettled him. It was what she didn't. She didn't ask if he was scared. She didn't offer reassurance beyond those words. She didn't reach out with concern. Instead, she leaned into the calm of control, moving through their home with a quiet confidence that suddenly felt foreign. That night, as Ernest lay awake listening to her breathing and the hum of the house, he heard her make a phone call. Low, quiet, intentional. Her words reached him through the walls. Relief. Calculated relief. That was when he realized the lie hadn't created the problem. It had revealed it. The following morning, her calm was the first thing Ernest noticed. It wasn't the gentle kind of reassurance he remembered. It was a deliberate, controlled calm that didn't belong to someone reacting to bad news. She moved through the house purposefully, opening drawers, pulling out old files, paperwork they hadn't touched in years, folders of insurance documents, savings statements. Questions followed naturally, casually. Yet every word carried a weight that made Ernest uneasy. How long would severance last? Could money be moved quickly if needed? These weren't questions of concern. They were questions of preparation. Later, she softened. She spoke with warmth, reassured him, cooked his favorite meal, the one she made when he had a rough day. For a moment, the tension eased. The home felt familiar again. But that calm wasn't comfort. It was certainty. It was the first clue that her mind was elsewhere, planning, calculating, anticipating. And that calm was about to make sense. A few nights later, Ernest found himself in the hallway again, drawn by instinct. The house was dark, quiet in the way it had always been before, but this time he noticed the subtle shift. Her voice floated through the living room wall. Low, careful, deliberate. He froze, listening. "He doesn't know yet," she said. Then a pause. "No, he thinks it's permanent." And then, "We'll have time now." Ernest didn't confront her. He didn't shout. He didn't break the quiet that had always been a part of their shared life. He did something far more dangerous. He listened. Every word, every pause, every slight inflection was now data, a glimpse into a reality he hadn't been prepared to face. After that night, Ernest could no longer trust his own mind. Every word, every glance from her replayed in endless loops. He questioned himself constantly. Was he imagining the tension? Was he twisting innocent words into something sinister? Or had his instincts finally caught up to a truth he had refused to see? He told himself it was stress, the sleepless nights, the constant worry about their future. But even as he tried to rationalize, the knot in his chest refused to loosen. Every instinct screamed that something had shifted irreversibly. He considered checking her phone. Just a glance. One moment of knowledge that would confirm or deny the growing suspicion. But he didn't. Part of him wanted to hold on to the fragile illusion that everything could still be normal. Part of him feared that once he crossed that line, there would be no going back. Every small interaction now carried weight. Every smile, every casual touch, every seemingly innocent question about the day or the weather was measured, analyzed, filed away. And the question lingered. If you were in his position, would you want the truth or the comfort of not knowing? Ernest had learned the hardest lesson of trust. Uncertainty can be more excruciating than certainty. He moved through days pretending, performing, blending in with the normalcy of shared routines, while at night The fragments of her words haunted him, replaying in an endless loop. And deep down, he knew. The phone call he overheard was only the beginning. There were truths yet to uncover, consequences yet to face, and decisions yet to make. As days turned into weeks, the patterns became undeniable. Her phone, once casually left on the kitchen counter, now remained in her hand, her pocket, or hidden just out of sight. If a message arrived, she tilted the screen, moved her body, and responded with speed that suggested practice. She changed passwords, just in case he tried to peek, and mentioned new acquaintances casually, names that slipped in and out of conversation like they were insignificant. But to Ernest, each name was a small signal, a fragment of something larger, something he wasn't yet fully ready to face. And yet, there were moments that complicated his judgment. Late at night, he overheard her speaking softly about starting over, about feeling trapped, about freedom and independence. There was a vulnerability there, one he recognized but also couldn't fully trust. It hinted that perhaps her actions weren't born of malice, but necessity, or a desperate yearning for control over a life she felt boxed into. And for a moment, he questioned himself. Was he overreacting? Had he misread the signs? But then he remembered the phone calls, the careful planning, the calm certainty she carried that never aligned with concern. Ernest held on to hope, believing the story could still end peacefully, that conversations and honesty might save them. But he was wrong. Each calculated move she made, each secretive message, each casual reference to someone else, slowly unveiled a truth too uncomfortable to ignore. The life they had built together, the trust, the quiet routines, was cracking under the weight of a reality Ernest hadn't yet been prepared to face. 3 nights later, the truth emerged in brutal clarity. Ernest found himself awake again, alert to every creak, every shadow. She was on the phone, and this time there was no ambiguity, no room for doubt. Her words were precise, deliberate. Money was discussed. Timing was planned. Contingencies were laid out for if he doesn't recover. And then came the chilling line, the one that made Ernest's blood run cold. If he stays like this, it solves the problem. In that instant, the world he had trusted collapsed. This wasn't about unhappiness, about stress, about trapped feelings. This wasn't about love lost or freedom sought. What he was hearing was cold calculation. The careful, measured words, the preparation, the certainty in her voice. It was all proof that this wasn't betrayal born of passion. It was betrayal born of opportunity, control, and planning. Every move she had made, every question she had asked, every pause and shadow of calm that had unnerved him, they all fell into place. Ernest understood, with the sharp clarity of a man standing at a precipice, that this was not about saving a marriage. This was about her strategy. And for the first time, he recognized that survival meant more than exposure. It meant preparation, observation, and action. Sleep became impossible for Ernest. Each night, he lay awake, listening to the house settle into silence, every sound magnified. The soft hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, the creak of the floorboards he once ignored. During the day, he performed the illusion of normalcy flawlessly. He smiled at her, answered questions casually, laughed at jokes that felt forced. Outsiders would never suspect the storm brewing in his mind. But inside, a quiet dread gnawed at him, unrelenting and precise. Every gesture, every glance, every casual remark she made now carried hidden meaning. Then came the invitation, a weekend away, romantic, simple, seemingly innocent. She framed it as an opportunity to reconnect, to escape stress, to remember the good old days. But the moment she spoke those words, every instinct screamed at him that something was wrong. The warmth of her tone didn't reach her eyes. The words carried confidence, not affection. The invitation was a test, a trap disguised as love. If he had accepted, the consequences might have been irreversible. Ernest stayed home, silent, watching, listening, waiting. And in that quiet, he realized that survival meant patience, that acting too soon could destroy him. That calm, that invitation, it would have been the end if he had accepted it. The days that followed became a battle of instinct versus doubt. Ernest considered confronting her, exposing the calls, the carefully guarded secrets, the patterns he had been witnessing for weeks. But he didn't. She still thought he was powerless, that he had no awareness of the subtle strategies she was implementing. That lie about losing his job had become a shield. It protected him, gave him time to observe, to prepare, to act when the moment demanded precision. For the first time, Ernest realized something profound. Losing his job wasn't the danger. Losing her trust, losing his ability to navigate the delicate balance of their life, could destroy him faster than any financial setback. Every instinct screamed caution, but clarity had replaced fear. He understood that survival required a calculated approach. And then he made a choice. Careful, deliberate, and shocking. Not reckless, not impulsive, but strategic. A choice that would give him the upper hand, one step closer to reclaiming a life that had begun to slip away. Ernest became the man she expected him to be. Weak, despondent, defeated. He acted withdrawn, silent, depressed. He stopped asking questions, stopped checking accounts, stopped showing any hint that he knew more than he let on. Every small act of normalcy now served as camouflage. By pretending to spiral, he gave her confidence. She moved freely, planned openly, spoke without caution, believing she had the advantage. Viewers can feel the tension building here. Every casual remark, every quiet step, every secretive call she thought went unnoticed, was being catalogued. She believed she was winning. But she didn't realize she was being watched. Every decision she made, every strategy she executed was under Ernest's quiet observation. And that observation gave him power. The roles had shifted subtly, invisibly, and he was poised to strike. But not with anger, with knowledge. Then it happened. The night that confirmed everything. Ernest, alert and still, heard her phone call in its entirety. The voice of another person entered the conversation, a partner in her plans. Money, timing, contingencies, all were discussed. Every word, every pause, every calculated sentence confirmed his worst fears. And then came the line that made his blood run cold. If he stays like this, it solves the problem. Ernest didn't move. He didn't confront. He quietly recorded every word, capturing proof of her intentions. When the call ended, he packed a small bag, careful not to disturb anything, and left the house quietly. The weight of betrayal pressed against him, but clarity replaced panic. That was the last night Ernest ever slept beside her. He had seen the truth, and survival demanded distance, observation, and action. There was no shouting, no confrontation, no doors slammed in anger. Ernest handled the situation with deliberate care, ensuring his safety and legal protection. Separation papers followed, meticulous and precise. Every move was calculated to secure him, to protect him from further manipulation. He walked away quietly, leaving the home that had once symbolized safety. The betrayal stung, but not because of a single shocking act. It was the calm, the precision, the subtle erosion of trust over time. Trust doesn't die in a moment. It dies slowly, quietly, unnoticed, until one day it simply isn't there. And the lie meant to expose love? It revealed something far more profound: calculation, opportunity, and the fracture of a bond that had seemed unbreakable. If you've ever trusted someone completely, this story stays with you. It lingers in quiet moments, in the memories of words and gestures replayed over and over. Ernest's decision to lie, to test, to observe, it wasn't deceit for its own sake. It was survival. It was uncovering a truth that honesty alone might never have revealed. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Ernest did the right thing by lying? Or did that lie reveal the truth sooner than honesty ever could? How would you have acted in his shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story affected you, give the video a like. It helps more people find it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us why listening closely, observing carefully, and trusting your instincts can change everything.